If you regularly watch the content on this channel, you're most likely a socialist, or at least interested in a left-wing analysis of current political affairs. Most contemporary socialists are under the impression that their ethical system and vision for the future of humanity is a truly selfless endeavor, like any other political movement in history. I don't think one would even have to be a socialist, or even aligned with the left, to agree with the sentiment that making taxpayers, particularly the rich, pay their fair share and using those tax dollars to fund programs that provide quality healthcare, quality education, and quality housing to its people as not only an altruistic duty that one should endeavor on, but as a reward for paying what's due from them as outlined by the social contract. Not to mention worker ownership of firms, but the former is what the majority of this liar's video focuses on. I assume a guy calling himself a liberal would believe in the SC. What? Shape-shifting nature to accommodate whatever his audience wants him to say at any given moment aside, Prager actually thinks socialism produces more selfishness than capitalism. Yes, he actually thinks that. Let's get into this.
In the contemporary world, it's taken as a given that capitalism, with its free market and profit motive, is based on selfishness and produces selfishness.
Precisely. In a capitalist economy, the means of production are typically owned by shareholders, and their paramount reason for operation is profit, to put back into the hands of shareholders. Central characteristics include capital accumulation, private property, and wage labor. Throughout history, sociologists, anthropologists, and economists have described the system as inefficient, unsustainable, inequality-creating, anti-democratic, and has had empirically proved accusations of being conducive to polluting the environment. It not only benefits individuals, but also the collective as well, and is more compatible with virtually every form of utilitarian framework. Specifically with other worker cooperatives, profits are equally distributed to all the employees of a company, since every employee is a shareholder in those firms, which levels out the workplace playing field. I can already telegraph you saying socialism is when government, not even when it does stuff, just an apostrophe between those syllables. But the state should represent the will of the people, and in the distant future, most contemporary socialists actually seek to reduce the presence of the state. Socialism seeks to provide value to society while distributing the benefits equally, the perfect amelioration of capitalism.
Well, the opposite is true. Whatever its intentions, socialism produces far more selfish individuals and a far more selfish society than a free market economy does.
The opposite is false, and all substantive evidence is in support of it. If capitalism is the more selfless system, why does the person who had bought into a firm the most get the most power proportional to their ownership? Why has wealth inequality skyrocketed exponentially? Why do war profiteers permeate all throughout politics? If shareholder capitalism is all about selflessness, why was the bloodiest war in our history fought over slavery? Why is so much of the money you're given soaked in not only the Pacific Ocean's worth of oil, but blood as well?
Whatever its intentions, socialism produces far more selfish individuals and a far more selfish society.
Then why do we want quarterly profits to be distributed equally?
Once this widespread selfishness catches on, it is almost impossible to undo it. Here's an illustration. In 2010, the United States President Barack Obama addressed a large audience of college students. At one point in his speech, he announced that young people will now be able to remain on their parents' health insurance plan until age 26. I don't ever recall hearing a louder, more thunderous, or more sustained applause than I did then. Had the president announced that a cure for cancer had been discovered, it is highly doubtful that the applause would have been as loud or as long.
Wait, what? What are you... What? Okay, so the reason so many college students, i.e. millennials, were cheering so loudly and so thunderously was because the cost of health insurance, most of which comes from the deductibles, skyrocketed, mostly in 2010, and have only gotten precipitously worse since then. Keep in mind, Prager, that this was in the wake of not only the Iraq War, which you still think was justified to this day, see my debunk video, which almost annihilated social spending throughout the double odds, but also the 2008 recession recession that low interest rates, tax cuts, speculative investing, and general greed got us. So shut the hell up every time you complain about the national debt as a scramble every time there's a Democrat in office, because you're no better than them on that front. And no, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac weren't the only creditors responsible for the housing crisis, but they're government-subsidized corporations, not government-owned corporations. Leftists want creditors nationalized. The conservatorship model that they're under is much looser and deregulated than nationalization. And I think college kids would be even more jubilant if they found out there was a cure for cancer, because it's something we've been trying to figure out throughout human history. So why are conservatives so in favor of slashing the science budget? Oh wait, even if they got such a disease, it's not likely that they'll be able to afford treatment. So here's a thought experiment, Prager. If I somehow merge my own health insurance company into a cartel and we're the only option to buy essential items from, which has happened time and time again, and you can't afford the ailments, tell you and your family, my shareholder buddies and I say fuck you, get back to work and be content with the subsistence benefits I'm paying you, prick.
But what were they so happy about? To be told that you can now remain dependent on your parents until age 26 should strike a young person as demeaning, not liberating.
It will and did strike young people as liberating and not demeaning, because the average costs of not only healthcare but health insurance are $13,360 and $6,487 respectively. Having to pay that much for people just beginning to work and starting out on their own financially is a relief from the capitalist tribulation. How the hell are we supposed to be independent when the
Throughout American history, and for that matter, all of Western history, the great goal of young people was to become a mature adult, beginning with being independent of mom and dad.
median income for dependent students was just under $14,000 in 2016. I just mentioned that the cost of health insurance was the $6,400 now, so how are we going to be independent under this form of capitalism? I know, because the boots of the insurance companies you're licking right now, probably the Heritage Foundation, are paying you the purest form of money made from exploitation conceivable.
Socialism and the welfare state destroy this aspiration.
Wrong.
In various European countries, and now increasingly in the US, it is becoming common for young people to live with their parents well into their 30s, and not infrequently beyond.
I couldn't think of greater projection than what this geezer is doing now. This is because the wealth inequality rates in the continents you just mentioned are skyrocketing, and the only reason they're going slower in Europe is because virtually every country there has stronger social safety nets than we do here. Talk about dependency when most billionaires have inherited their wealth. These are the people of the most immodest means who haven't experienced an ounce of the working class's tribulation in their entire life. Capitalism fosters more dependency because most of a trust fund kid's future is securing their parents' estate.
Why not? In the welfare state, taking care of yourself is no longer a virtue. Why? Because the government will take care of you. Therefore, socialism enables, and as a result produces, people whose preoccupations become more and more self-centered.
Alert, alert. We have reached peak idiocy levels, the likes of which we've never encountered before. Stay inside your homes to avoid losing brain cells and IQ points due to rapidly transmissible nebulousness. Why do I even bother? In a welfare state, we want people to take care of themselves, but we also don't want them suffering. Dennis Lordass over here has no idea how hard so many people in the working class struggle every second of every day, with that demographic's monthly rent going to Mars much faster than Elon Musk could hope to, which is, you know, ironic. Anyway, the opposite is true in stronger welfare states. In them, people have been shown to have the ability to be financially resuscitated quicker, be happier, and do more for themselves in terms of money in the long run. Here's an article from the Kennedy School, because I know you'll trust a paper from a private university. The government give money, therefore selfish. I don't know why you vehemently deny evolution when you're living proof that we've evolved past Neanderthals. Shareholder capitalism relies on capital accumulation, and the shareholder gets a say at what happens in the company. How is that not dependency?
How many benefits will I receive from the government?
Entrepreneurs ask that question all the time with regards to their venture capitalists.
Will the government pay for my education?
Corporations also offer scholarship.
Will the government pay for my health care?
People ask that in regards to the benefit their employers get. As a matter of fact, people ask that question after they've left a job or changed a position.
What is the youngest age at which I can retire?
The paramount reason people participate in markets is so they can retire. It's one of the first things listed on job offerings.
How much paid vacation time can I get?
That's what people ask their bosses.
How many days can I call in sick and still get?
That too.
How many weeks of paid paternity or maternity leave am I entitled to? The list gets longer with every election of a liberal or progressive or left-wing party.
Every time you speak, the laws of physics make it to where there's no possibility of you telling the truth in any omniverse. Scientists would be dumbfounded if you actually spoke about what corresponds to reality. The only reason literally every one of these questions is asked is because now that class division is becoming more and more tacit, people are generally having to ration out their paychecks more and more. Of course, they're not only going to ask these questions to their employers, but also the government when shit hits the fan. You're a boss-ass looking ass Casper the Ghost with glasses, fat Anderson Cooper lard-ass trust fund kid who has never had any understanding of what the working class has to go through. Take a wad of your think tank money and go fuck yourself with it.
And then each entitlement becomes a right.
Yes, we have the right to food and health. I'd expect the guy who calls himself a liberal to agree with that.
But we're not done.
I know, you never shut up.
There are even more destructive effects of socialism. Entitlements create citizens who lack a character trait that every human should have: gratitude.
Why would we feel gratitude towards a welfare state or towards the worker cooperatives we're a part of? The only reason you don't want a welfare state is that your pimps over at every fracking billionaire think tank wants to get richer. And speaking of slippery funds, it'd be nice to have some lube when we're getting fucked by the upper 1% all the time. We'd have some gratitude if you gave us some. Ironic coming from the people who will say it'll all trickle down, which is untrue. Are you grateful that humanity has taken so many initiatives to feed the hungry, aid the poor, nurse the sick? I think anyone would, because it shows that regardless of profit, whatever transactional gain one could get out of doing something altruistic, there is selfless good that many humans possess. Since you keep on insisting you're a liberal, I believe that you too value human rights, and believe that members of our species are entitled to life, since you keep on pushing for the sanctity of it at any age. If you do, you'd support adequate healthcare that fulfills everyone's needs, housing, and food, which people have to feel grateful for, because it's saving their lives. I mean, when it comes to wait. Oh, right. And this guy really brands himself as the freedom type.
So instead of thank you, the citizen of the welfare state is taught to say, what more am I entitled to?
Capitalism makes people ask those questions even more.
Yet the left insists that it's capitalism and the free market, not socialism, that produces selfish people. But the truth is that capitalism and the free market produce much less selfish people.
Wrong.
Teaching people to work hard and take care of themselves and others.
The irony of this is that he's telling this to a little kid who has no idea of how to work for himself, what interest rates are, how to take enough deductions to avoid taxes, how to use charities for profit, and so many ruthless tactics so many people who Prager considers hard-working use. See those quadriplegic homeless people on the street? Work harder and take care of others. Fuck you.
And that they should earn what they receive produces less selfish, not more selfish people.
Mr. Pro-Life thinks clumps of cells are entitled to life, even though they have zero agency whatsoever since their nervous systems aren't developed at all to deserve life. Could it be that by virtue of being a human, they're entitled to it? Now you know why I love using prageru to argue with prageru, because it's not only funny and fun, but easy too. And just to put Prager's position on parental leave succinctly, here's a clip from George Carlin.
Teaches people to work more. Socialism teaches people to demand more.
I actually agree with Prager here, but he's contradicting himself in saying this, because capitalism is also conducive to people demanding more, because the paramount reason people work is so they can retire. Lawsuits, wage negotiation, boycotting, and unionization are all market forces in a capitalistic framework that produces people who demand more. Marxism posits that humans shouldn't even have to work in a perfect society, and should instead focus on doing what we love. In such a society, I could be annihilating right-leaning conservatives, you could be fantasizing about telling Colombian children on coffee farms to get back in line and pull themselves up by their bootstraps, while completely coincidentally the welfare budget is slashed even more and more. Hate the rich getting taxed more? Work hard. The government won't award Raytheon any more contracts? Work hard. You're losing the culture war? Work hard. You want to force women to have sex with their spouses? Whoa, actually no. Forget I said anything. For someone who says socialism teaches people to demand more, you're certainly demanding a lot from the left. And your wife.
Which attitude do you think will make a better society?
Socialism.
I'm Dennis Prager.
What you are is a fascist. Well, folks, the closest thing I can bring up to describe what that was is that one inflatable-looking guy from Ghostbusters spew an endless stream of bullshit about how people should work harder and pull themselves up by their bootstraps, all while the rich continue to get richer and completely ignoring what the actual definition of socialism is. It's really inconsistent for them to adulate people who are already rich, because now they're taking a new pro-small business approach in hating consolidated entities, but especially knowing who they're funded by is very ironic. If some of the most evil people on the planet are constantly trying to deter you away from demanding concessions from them, you know it's something that'll benefit you. Worker ownership and a welfare state are objective good and will lead us into a better future. Thanks for watching.